Today we are looking at the top most influential movies from the year 1984. We calculated the votes and ran all the movies from this year through our formula in order to find out which ones made an impact and which ones are still making an impact. And with that, let's start the countdown.
Number 1.
Ghosts.
Hello, Ghostbusters.
Although it was a pretty tight race, Ghostbusters ends up with the most points and votes to capture the coveted number 1 ranking for the most influential movie of 1984. Ghostbusters was a massive hit right from the start, using a perfect mix of comedy and horror to help make it the number 1 movie for 7 consecutive weeks. Even its theme song was a big hit and was the number 1 song for 3 consecutive weeks that year, thanks to Ray Parker Jr. simply asking,
"Who you gonna call?"
Ghostbusters made such an impact in the 80s that it felt like 2 or 3 sequels came out during that decade. However, there was only one sequel, Ghostbusters 2, which came out in 1989. They did have a very highly popular cartoon, The Real Ghostbusters, which came out in 1986. And that's all that was produced in the 80s. However, that was all they really needed to make their impact. And as that they didn't need any more help, there was non-stop merchandise, from toys and video games to clothes and food. More movies began again in 2016 with a reboot, but the 2016 Ghostbusters got several negative reviews and did not do so well in the box office. However, more direct sequels to the 80s movies, Ghostbusters Afterlife in 2021 and Frozen Empire in 2024, came out and did very well with the critics and in the box office. At the end of the day, as long as people know exactly who to call if there's something strange in your neighborhood, then Ghostbusters will remain a big part of our pop culture and comes in as the most influential movie of 1984.
Ghostbusters. Coming to save the world.
"Who you gonna call?"
Ghostbusters.
Number 2.
In the 21st century, a weapon will be invented like no other.
Terminator comes in as the second most influential movie of 1984, and it was a very close race between this movie and Ghostbusters. Terminator held its own thanks in part to this movie and its sequel, Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Both are considered to be 2 of the best sci-fi movies made. There were actually a total of 5 sequels to Terminator, but the other 4 never came close to the success of the first 2 movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger was a rising star at the time, and this movie helped him rise even quicker. The fact that he only had 17 lines during the entire movie also may have helped.
I'll be back.
This movie also helped the careers of director James Cameron, who went on to direct Titanic, and Michael Biehn, who went on to be Corporate Hicks in Aliens, and Johnny Ringo in Tombstone. Terminator also warned us about the upcoming dangers of AI, but luckily gave us 6 easy-to-follow, foolproof plans on how to deal with it. Robot attacks or not, Terminator and Terminator 2 caused a major ripple effect in our pop culture, making Terminator the second most influential movie of 1984.
The Terminator. Your future is in its hands.
Number 3.
This is it. This is the end of the line.
Karate Kid followed directly behind Terminator in points, and comes in as the 3rd most influential movie of 1984. We believe the biggest reason for its high calculations is thanks in part to the Cobra Kai television series, which debuted in 2018. This was a massive hit, and it appeared to come out of nowhere and quickly became a fan favorite. Karate Kid the movie was released in June of 1984, and it was an immediate success in the box office. Mr. Miyagi, Danielson, Wax On, Wax Off, and more importantly, Mercies for the Weak all became part of our world. Parents were signing up their kids for karate all over America, and this was thanks to this movie. There were a total of 4 sequels and a reboot in 2010, and all with the same message: that bullies are jerks and deserve a karate kick to the head. The success of Cobra Kai, even though it came out 34 years after the original Karate Kid, speaks to this movie's continuing impact on society and pulp culture.
No mercy.
Columbia Pictures presents The Karate Kid.
Hey, what kind of belt do you have?
Canvas. You like? JC Penney, 398.
Number 4.
The Kids of Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street is the 4th most influential movie of 1984. Freddy Krueger has made a place for himself in our pulp culture, and he is going to be there a while. With 9 sequels, it is not surprising that Freddy Krueger is easily recognized as one of the major faces of the horror film industry. The idea that he would attack you in your dreams was an extremely creative concept, and probably didn't help insomniacs sleep any better at night. However, this concept did allow this slasher film to easily continue growing its franchise. This movie also gave 21-year-old Johnny Depp his very first movie role, with Amber Heard being his real Freddy Krueger in about 38 more years. With all the slasher movies that came out in the 80s, A Nightmare on Elm Street definitely stood out, and with Freddy Krueger continuing to scare new generations, it is easy to see how this is the 4th most influential movie of 1984.
From Wes Craven, director of The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left, a new masterpiece in fantasy terror, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, those are your top 4 most influential movies of 1984. However, there were 2 more movies who just barely got enough points. Beverly Hills Cop is your 5th most influential movie from this year. Similar to Ghostbusters, which used a mix of comedy and horror, Axel Foley and the rest of the gang used a perfect mix of comedy and action, which gave us a great result. With 3 sequels, and the last one coming out in 2024, which is 40 years after the first movie, makes this a pretty impressive franchise. Gremlins just snuck in with enough points to make it the 6th most influential movie of 1984, thanks to the popularity of Gizmo and all the Gremlins. And with that, we are left with honorable mentions for movies that did not make the cut onto this list. Shout out to Footloose, and although it got help from the Guardians of the Galaxy,
We're just like Kevin Bacon.
it did not get enough points. The Natural also failed to get enough points, but it's too good of a baseball movie not to mention. Let us know what you think about the ranking, and as always, make sure and like and subscribe as we continue to calculate all the 80s movies to see which ones are still relevant today. Please make sure and take a look at our next video for the most influential movies of 1985.